Did you know that over half of Americans are stuck in credit card debt? According to a recent poll, 60% of Americans have been stuck in credit card debt for a year or longer. Let me be very clear with you. This is not the time to be stuck in credit card debt. Not when rates are rising, when liquidity is dropping, when the economy is rolling over, headed into a deep recession, and the people who have the power to turn the lights on or off are saying we are not making things easier anytime soon. We are seeking unemployment, we are seeking a recession, lower demand, higher interest rates, economic pain to stop inflation. This is not the time to be in debt. Ready? Let's dive in. Take a look with me at this chart here that shows how many Americans are stuck in credit card debt and how long they've been there for. And we can see at least 60% of people have been stuck in credit card debt for at least 1 year. Now, if you do some quick math here, looking at this pie chart, you'll notice that it does not add up to 100%. So what are we looking at here? Well, 60% of people have been at least 1 year in credit card debt. And of those people, now we've got the ones who have been at least a year. Some of them are also at least 2 years, and some of them are also at least 3 years, and so on and so forth. So we get to almost 1/5 of all Americans. A fifth of all Americans, at least 5 years, have been in credit card debt. That means carrying a balance. That means you are paying your credit card bill every single month, and you're not paying it all the way off. You're paying maybe the minimum payment, maybe more, but you're paying interest because you've been carrying a balance. Now, think about 5 years ago. It's 2022 right now, so that's 2017, 2018. That's well before 2020 came along. And yet, despite the stimulus checks, despite the refinancing, despite everything that happened there, the job gains from job hopping, quitting, everything that went on during 2020 and 2021, 19% of people still carry their credit card balances that 5 years consistently. Now, the devastating part of this entire pie chart here is that 8% do not know. How devastating is that to sit there and think about it and realize that you've been stuck in credit card debt for so long that you actually don't know how long it's been. Now, please don't hear me wrong on this. If you are in this situation, I know what that feels like. I've been there. There was a time in my life I had almost $100,000 of credit card debt. I know what it's like to not be able to fall asleep at night because you don't know if you're going to be able to pay the bills next month. So I've been there. No judgment here. But I want you, if you're in this position, to hear me very clearly. Right now is not the time to be in credit card debt. Many people still think the Fed is coming to the rescue. Many people still think a bailout is right around the corner. Many people still think interest rates are going to drop any day now, and they're going to be able to fix things. That is not the case. That's not what's happening now, and it's not going to happen anytime soon. And if, and I say big if here, if a bailout comes anytime soon, it's not for you and it's not for me. It will only be for the government in the case of a very rare hypothetical potential default for the US government. Or it will only be to bail out the banking system if there's some inevitable banking collapse that starts to roll out throughout the system. It is not going to be a repeat of 2020, a repeat of 2021. No stimulus checks are coming. No mortgage refinances, cash out refinances are coming anytime soon. So if this is you and you're in this position, the number one priority out of everything that you have right now is to get rid of variable interest rate debt. Interest rates are going up. They're going to be going up for a while now, and especially on something like credit cards where they're already so high, 18, 20, 25%. You do not want to wake up in 4 months, 6 months, and realize the interest rate on your credit card is 30%, and you've made no headway on paying down that principal, because it's very possible that most of these Americans, 60% who have had a balance for at least a year, will wake up in 6 months and realize that it is now impossible for them to pay off their credit cards completely, because it's gotten to the point where your minimum payment is bigger than your grocery bill. Your minimum payment is bigger than your mortgage, and you have no ability to increase your income enough to now attack the principal. All you can do is pay that minimum payment. So please, if this is you, do not be that person who's waiting for that bailout, because it's not coming. The harsh reality is you did get yourself into this situation, even if stuff happened to you, which it probably did. Otherwise, why in the world would you be in this situation? There was probably a hard circumstance that caused you to get into this, at least in part. But just because something isn't your fault doesn't mean it's not your responsibility. It's not our fault that the politicians in 1913 allowed the Federal Reserve to get started. But it is our responsibility to end the Federal Reserve today. It's not our fault that for decades the government has been loading up on debt and now has $30 trillion in debt that's going to probably collapse our economy. But it is our responsibility to deal with it in the most responsible way forward. And at least in part, it may not be your fault, your current financial conditions, but it is your responsibility to get yourself out of that hole. So here's what you do. Make a list of all your debts. The number one is going to be the highest interest rate or the highest potential. If you've got a couple different interest rates, but one of them is variable, I would personally attack that one first because it has the potential in a couple months to be a lot higher. On all of your debts, pay the minimum payment except that top one with the most expensive interest rate. On the one with the most expensive interest rate, dedicate everything to eradicating it. Do a side hustle, get an extra job on the side, sell something online, eat beans and rice and eggs. Do everything possible to get rid of that. Once you've gotten rid of that top one, take all the money you were paying on that one and roll it into the second one, roll it into the third one, and so on and so forth until you get rid of all of your variable interest rate debt and all of your high interest rate debt. Because times are getting tough and you do not want that shackle of dangerous debt attached to you going in to one of the hardest economic times that our country has probably ever faced. You want to be as lean and as mean as possible because the reality is there's actually going to be some pretty great opportunities ahead as well. Imagine how much better you'd be off today if you were able to buy a home in one of those $1 million neighborhoods for $100,000 in 2011. Imagine if you were able to buy stocks when valuations were not at record highs. You want to be in that situation, and those opportunities are coming up. They're not quite here yet, but they are definitely coming. And if you're still paying the minimum payment on a 30% credit card, you're not going to be able to take advantage of building generational wealth when asset prices are in the toilet and valuations are the best they'll be in many people's lifetimes. Debt is a tool, and just like any tool, it can be used for good or it can be used for bad. So shed all that bad debt, get rid of that dead weight, and make yourself lean so that you can take advantage of all the opportunities that are coming up very soon. Many, many people, including myself, have been in a position just like yours, potentially even worse, and have gotten themselves out of it. You can too. I promise. As always, I really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.